What's going on, everybody? We're back for the third episode. This is Corbin, the Serpent Tongue Skipwith.
And Ren The Berserker Marabou.
And
this
is SAGAS. I'm pretty sure I got it wrong that time.
And this is SAGAS,
and this is SAGAS. Yeah, we said.
That was the worst one yet, but sure. It's progress.
We'll get there one day.
It's backwards progress, but still progress.
So yeah, it's 10 p.m. here for me, and it's...
What is it, 11:15 here, yeah?
Nice.
In
Irlande. We're committed, even though this was meant to be done a few days ago, but I fucked up. So that's that. Oh, yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Was it?
No, 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
So today we're going to be talking about, as it was announced in the promotional artwork that you did yourself. Congratulations, it looked cool. Abrahadabra by Dimmu Borgir that came out 2010, September 22nd.
Yeah.
So do you want to start or?
Yeah, bro, I just, straight off the bat, it's just like, what an incredible piece of music. Like, just all around phenomenal. Like, you don't know where to start with an album like this because it's just so vast. There's so much going on. There could have been about 200 people involved in making this, and but I suppose the best way to start is from the first track. Yep. And the first track, straight away, you've got that throat singing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wrote that down too.
Yeah, that draws me in straight away because, like, to me, that's very Viking. It's very it's that they're Norwegian, right? So that's very much in them, the Norse influence. But yeah, straight away I'm like, oh, exciting, happy days. And then it kind of turns into this like very symphonic movie-esque. Like, it sounds like something from a Tim Burton movie or something. And it's really like mystical or mysterious and exciting. And it's just like this beautiful piece. It's like a movie score, really, isn't it? Like,
yeah. I was gonna say, what I wrote down about the intro track is it kind of reminds me of Cradle of Filth, and I'm not sure how many albums you've heard of theirs, but normally, especially in their old catalog, all their intros would be this orchestral instrumental. It'd be this like grand piece of instrumental music to start the album off. So to me, it was really reminiscent of Cradle of Filth.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I've only listened to the few bits of Cradle of Filth you've got me onto, but yeah, no, I thought it was a really special way to start the album, like, and but straight after that, because we have to surmise this album somewhat because it's so, like I say, vast. So we won't get too into the kind of the score element of it. We'll be talking about the concerto stuff all day. But as soon as it kicks in then to the next track, that riff for me is just epic, man. It's just like this snarling kind of very, like, it has that grunge element to the fact that as soon as they're punching in with the chord, another on like 2 bars, the same guitar comes in over, panned, and it just has this really like ballsy kind of guitar riff. And then, like, just for a minute, it just kind of gives you that little bit of a break from the orchestral stuff, and then you got this slam on the snare, just a boom, and a slide down on the bass, and you're straight into it. Like, absolutely love that. And it's full on black metal chunk then, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, so the good thing is you're taking this in a very track for track way, which is amazing because we need someone to do that, and I definitely didn't plan it out that way on my end. But in my end, like, see, for me, with reviewing these albums, I get the opportunity to ask questions to an actual artist like yourself and see, like, so for example, I wrote down here in my notes something interesting, how they said apparently is that the album took 11 months to create because there was no writing going on during touring. They didn't have time for it. And so I want to ask you, as a band member and someone who has a band, how relatable is that when you're touring, you just don't have time. Like, would you say that's very relatable to yourself and your band?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the fact that they were touring so much, but yeah, the production of this was 11 months, and that's like 11 months solid work. What was it? Their ninth studio album, was it?
Yeah.
So like 11 solid months, but that was bringing in all I think it was a guy called I can't, don't blame me for saying this wrong now, but it's like Gate Storage. Yeah, he was the composer and arranger, and he put so much into it as well. But the boys had the tracks, had the whole production on their end, and then they presented it to him, as far as I know, and he really took it serious. Like he wanted it to be like an orchestral world standard type thing. Like he wanted them to be standalone, didn't he? Like,
yeah.
So yeah, he put a lot of effort into that, because he loved the songs too. He thought they were very symphonic as it was,
Yeah.
So, what you call it? So he was an absolute genius to bring on board. But have you seen any of the behind the scenes of the live in Oslo?
No.
You want to see how excited he is when the whole band. It's one of the most amazing performances or shows of all time. I absolutely love it. You're so excited watching it, like, but in the behind the scenes when they're setting up, you want to see him with the full orchestra, the band on stage. There was nobody in the audience. It was just kind of sound checks. But my God, you just see he's like an excited child, and that's what you love to see in these genius professional, music people, because you know that they're genuinely in it for the right things if they're that excited. Because I'm like that too. I get stupid excited over things in the studio and stuff. Like I'm like a little kid sometimes. But yeah. So
well,
absolutely.
I was going to say, and sorry to interrupt, but I was going to say, because we're talking about the same guy, I wrote down in my notes that he said regarding the album, or at least the path to creating it. He said, they are clearly having an orchestral approach to composing. My role in this sometimes is to take their ideas, tear them apart, and build them back up the way that the band, build them back up the way that the true band intentions. So the way the band intended. So to me, this is interesting, and I want to get your perspective as obviously a band member. How hard is it for you, or easy for you? Is it would it be for you to trust someone else who's not part of the band with your vision, entrust them to make it hopefully what's in your head and bring it to life?
It is hard, especially because the three boys in that band, the main guys, the singer and the two guitarists, they are very much hands-on with all of it, like, and it just goes to show how important pursuing their vision was, that they did take that trust in this guy. But it is difficult now. Like we said last week, about even when it comes to mixing, I'm very particular, like, and these boys would be too, obviously on a much higher level. But yeah, I just I think because your man had a lot of credentials, I think if you're working with somebody like that, obviously he's a gifted composer and arranger, but he understood. That's the thing. He understood what they were looking for, and I think after all the discussions, I think they made the best move to work with him, didn't they?
Yeah, that is true. And it's like there's so many elements about this album, and like I said, I'm taking this from a kind of a scattered approach. You're kind of doing it from a more track list perspective, which is because we need structure. But to me, so many things are kind of interesting. Like, for example, the album title is translated as "I Will Create as I Will Speak" by Aleister Crowley.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Like, yeah, what's that? 1905 or 1909 or 1900s or something? Egypt, and it just made so much. I was like, I'm gonna have to read that now.
Yeah, it's like so much effort has been put into this album, and for me personally, I think when you hear the term black metal, when someone mentions in a conversation or when you read online, anyone talking about black metal, I kind of feel like, at least to me, you automatically think orchestral. You automatically think grand, like Norwegian style, like dark, brooding orchestral. But to me, just because you do it doesn't mean you do it well. And I think this album really, really clarified and showed just what you can accomplish when you, like we said, when you hire the most glorified composer, the most gifted composer, when you hire the 200s or 100 musicians and singers like the Scholar Choir, the Norwegian Radio Orchestra, and see just what they did for that album that the band themselves couldn't do alone.
Oh, dude, the choirs as well. Like, geez, I mean, it was one of the work that they've done on this album is some of the most beautiful choir work I've ever heard. Like, what track is it that they really
Dimmu Borgir.
Oh, dude, that track is absolutely that's probably one of my favorites. Like, I found it very hard to pick a favorite on this album, but definitely that was a contender. The Sopranos, the way the tenors and the sopranos, they do like this on every second and fourth bar. You've got the tenors doing their it's like a question answer kind of thing. So you've got the sopranos doing their bit, and then the tenors, and it's just beautifully mixed. Just the way it's done, it's it's really special. I don't think I've heard anything that good. And, you know, normally you hear it, they're singing together, and I don't know, it just blew me away. But that segues me onto what I've been dying to talk to about all week is Diary. Just that track in particular. It's funny because as soon as the choirs are doing their bit, he kicks in with a really like Lars Ulrich style drumming. It's like almost a straight beat, standard-esque, especially for Diary, because his drumming is phenomenal. But just having that choir with that huge drum sound, rock drum sound, it's special, isn't it? Like,
yeah. But I was thinking, like, you know, to me, what makes that track stand out even more to me is they could have easily, like, if they were just, you know, they could have easily just had, like, as we discussed, the whatever it is at the start. But not only did they add that, they also had the chorus with the choir, Dimmu Borgir, like they actually said the band name. And to me, that little bit extra attention, that little bit extra choir added into the song, it just blew it all away. It's like, fuck, like you guys really went shooting for the stars.
Yeah. The Dimmu Borgir bit with the choir, like I just think of Star Wars, like, you know, it's like, it's so epic, you know, it could totally be like a Sith Lord coming in and causing havoc. But that, I think that's what really, when you hear a symphony and a choir, and it's that epic that it could be in like top epic movie soundtrack score stuff, like you just know it's good. And then when you have so much talent in the basses underneath it for the rock, the metal band stuff, it's just phenomenal. Like, and I could probably talk for the entire day about Dari and the drummer, where thankfully I've been blessed with the same manager as him. So it's I don't know, it's really cool to talk about him because I've been a huge fan of his since when he was in Vader, you know. That man is the top of the range metal drummer of the world. Like, he's a special, and he's a really sound bloke. He's just down to earth. He does his job. But I think when Dimmu brought him in, their sound just got launched up in the air. It's just he's such a powerhouse, you know, behind the kit. And that song really, really kind of shows his ability to write for the song as well as for his own kind of like showing off his stuff. It's very cool. Like, but that actually, do you know what else I love in that song?
Yeah.
Is the riff. There's the kick-ass riff, and they're playing like these octaves, and the sinister laugh at the end, dude. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, you know, talking about the tracks, one song stuck out to me. I mean, we'll talk about Gateway soon because I've had like a decade fear of that song because of that singer. But the one song that I've obviously revisited thanks to studying this album is the song, the Demiurge Molecule, which I think is interesting because to me, and this could just be me, but whenever I get to that song, I kind of feel like it has a weird, like as in what, to me it sounds like the combination of black metal and groove metal. It has such a weird like pattern. It doesn't sound like the rest of the album. It sounds like its own unique specimen of a song, and like it almost doesn't fit in the context of the album, but it's just so groovy. It doesn't really make sense, but I find it interesting.
Yeah, it's funny that song. Like at times I think it's phenomenal, and other times I'm thinking, like you say, it doesn't necessarily fit the album. But I think the vocal performance in that track in particular is probably one of the best vocal performances in the whole album. The vocal, the deep false chord kind of vocals, it's just like you literally don't need to get any better as a death metal vocalist in that sense. Like it's just, I love it so much. And they, like I said about the choir, they utilize the question and answer kind of vocals and stuff as well. And it's great stuff. Like,
you know, it's interesting because I if you go back to Dimmu Borgir's past discography, their first album, their first few albums, they've always had a sense of orchestral presence. But to me, this is the first album where they really had that, obviously, as the shining point. Because in the past, they were a lot more darker, a lot more satanic, a lot more just broodier in general. But this time they're like, all right, we want to do something flashy. We want to kind of punch a hole through the mainstream gate and come in strong and show the world what black metal can accomplish when done right.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Because like they got a lot of stick for that. They got a lot of stick in the kind of community for trying to push it through that boundary. And I always felt it was like, yous are just jealous. These boys, they're not afraid to try and break the mold. But like since they did that, sure, I would consider them as probably the biggest black metal band on the planet. Like, they really have rose above all that. But then I suppose, like you say, even the lyric content kind of annoyed people, like, because it wasn't so much satanic or any of that kind of darker element. That actually, a lot of these lyrics, I love them. I think they're very abstract and uplifting almost. Like there's a lot of it's very much like introspective and trying to basically make your path in life, and they're kind of promoting that, and they're pushing. And that's something I like writing about. I know I write about Norse mythology and stuff, but I like it to be in a more positive, kind of keep people motivated kind of way, instead of dragging them down, with all the usual kind of hate-filled lyrics. But they really, I think that's another thing that made this a special album, was that,
Yeah. Well, look, to me, as far as the mainstream goes and how the metal community reacted to it, to me, look, this is the same. And obviously, somewhere down the line, we're definitely going to talk about this album in the future. But to me, they did the same thing as what Cannibal Corpse did with the album Kill. I think Cannibal Corpse and Dimmu Borgir, they didn't compromise anything to go mainstream. There's certain bands, like, for example, in my opinion, Slipknot's All Hope Is Gone, you can hear the compromisation. You can hear the softer tones. You can hear the clean vocals. You can hear how they compromised to get the #1 chart or whatever they got. But compare that to their debut album or Iowa. It's completely different sounds. But to me, this album, it's just more grand. It's more orchestral. It's not more poppy. It's not more mainstream. It's not cleaner. They're just more orchestral. Just like Cannibal Corpse. They didn't change their sound. They just came in heavier. They came in more sluggish. And that in turn made it more metal. But they didn't compromise their sound, in my opinion.
No, you're dead right, man. Absolutely. Because that's what I mean. And I totally agree with you. And then I'm like, I'm not even entirely sure how they managed to pull that off. You know, it's like, it was just a stroke of genius. The whole approach to it. And, you know, another thing they got stick over was having like 100-piece orchestra, putting all the money into that. But if you're able to do it and you have the vision and your songs are good enough to accompany that, do it. Like, and these boys really pulled it off. And I was saying there earlier about the behind the scenes when they were rehearsing, they had this really fun vibe. Like, it was really, you could see the band were, it was like a lecture hall where they were rehearsing, and they had the orchestra and the choirs up on the seats, and the band were down on this little stage area, and they were all laughing their heads off, having the crack. You know, imagine being in a band and you've got this choir and the vocals or the string quartet going, and the timpani and the brass, and you're sitting there playing some chunky riffs, and this beautiful, beautiful sound is coming at you. And then on the other hand, you've got these guys that are into their classical, and they're laughing their heads off as well, like playing away, having fun with it, which you don't normally see. They're usually very straight laced, right? So they're, because they have this big ferocious metal band playing at them in rehearsals, it's just this lovely. I'd say the energy in the room was unreal. Like, even watching it and talking about it now, I get so excited, like, because I could just imagine being in that room. Like, I'm like, oh my god, but it was so complex. Like, the getting that show together must have been a logistical nightmare. I don't know how they managed to do it. Like, it was, I know, like, Metallica have done it, and you know, Tyr done a really nice show with the symphony in Faroe Islands, but there was something about, I think maybe because they showed us the behind the scenes in a really personal kind of way. It was just lovely. But I think that's because they all had that lovely, light-hearted, no ego approach. I think that's why it all worked, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, look. So I want to ask you a question as of obviously a band perspective. So I know that in your music you dabble in larger than life production, instrumentation, you know, obviously a lot of Viking and Norse mythology. So do you ever have moments where you're worried about, oh, will I appear more mainstream? Will I appear like I'll lose my core fans if I do this or if I add this sound? Do you ever have those fears?
Yeah, well, funny, because my first Viking style album was a lot heavier. It was you know, a lot of the tracks were tuned down as far as A. It was a lot more metal orientated. But then it was a conscious decision to bring it back up to drop D, which is a lot punchier and just has a little bit easier listening, let's say. And I did. It was a conscious decision. I was like, right, it was something to, you know, have more people gravitate to it a lot easier, you know. And I think that could be kind of like, because I've heard people talk about this album and they've saying it's nice to listen to, you know. It's like, it's ferociously heavy, but it's nice to listen to at the same time. So I kind of have that same mindset as well. Like, when I'm writing, you know, just obviously you want to stay true to yourself, because if you're not, then you're snookered then. But yeah, no, I do think that it's a tough decision if you want your music to sound. Because when I originally started doing this, I was like, right, gonna do a monomart. We're gonna do that. We're gonna, you know, go down that kind of more straight, hard hitting. And then the more I dabbled with instruments, I was just like, nah, I think there's so much more potential. And that's what these guys just see in their songs all the time. You know, you could just throw down a couple of guitars. I mean, they don't need to spend all this money on orchestras and stuff. They could just throw down some chunky riffs and scream their heads off, and people will buy it and they'd make a career out of it. They just want to go that extra mile, right? And I really respect that, and I can't wait till I have the money to do the same.
Yeah, no, it's going to be amazing. I can't wait for that either. Now, look, I think the song that I really want to talk about most is Gateways, because so for some context, I first, 2010, I would have been 16 years old, I guess. when I heard this album. And obviously the first single that was on all the YouTube was Gateways. And so I wasn't unfamiliar with the band up until this point. I was suspiciously a massive fan of black metal from a young age. I don't really know how I got that good, but that familiar. But I was already familiar with their old catalog. And when I heard Gateways for the first time, and I heard let me bring it up. That would be the singer's name, Agneti Kadjuris, right? I don't know.
I'm glad you tried that.
Yeah. When she started singing in the chorus and then the post-chorus, like, I got chills. I remember, like, this is a witch. I was thinking, this is a demonic witch that has hijacked the song. Like, oh, and to this day, after we listen to it, it still gives me chills. It's just a creepy, like an exorcist.
Yeah. I tell you what, man, that song is probably one of my favorite songs of like ever. I mean, especially when it comes to guest vocals, that was the best guest vocal appearance on a track ever. And I know people are gonna come at me and stuff, but if you really just listen to the track and what it would be like without her, it was a special track, and she just took it to a whole other level. Funny, I was listening to the instrumental bonus track this morning, and I was just hearing in my head her singing. I would love to hear just her vocals singing it'd be phenomenal, right? So yeah, what Jetta her name is, but she just has a real, it's funny you say a witch, because she kind of tries to have, even her appearance, she has that kind of a more spooky goth kind of look of her. But when she's singing live in Oslo with the band, it's a breathtaking performance, bro. It's just like she gets into the character. She has like the white paint, she's blonde hair, slicked back, and obviously the outfits that the boys wear on stage are just outlandish and incredible. But the intensity in the way she's singing, and when she sings live, she puts a bit more gravel in her voice, and it's just phenomenal. Like how she's the notes she's hitting, and then she's throwing the gravel in as well. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Like, but then the music video as well. Did you see the video for it? Oh, bro! Like it's again, it's the artistry, the whole concept behind the video. The vocalist has the mask on his head. That's from the album cover. And at parts he pulls it down over his face and has like tentacles on the side.
Yeah.
And they just look like obviously otherworldly, like it's phenomenal. But her vocals on the track and in the video, it comes across like with that performance element in the live show. And to have her floating in the video, she's there, so she looks kind of witchy, spooky, like, you know. It's it's epic. It will forever be one of my favorite tracks, actually. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. I just picture every time I listen to that song, I'm thinking a few things. Like, first of all, as you mentioned, what did the band? So when the band approached her in the studio, like, what did they say to her? Like, oh, just go ballistic, go nuts. Like, what? Be the most insane you can sound. And the second thing I wonder is, the producer for that song, was he a metalhead, or was he a normal dude? Because if he was a normal dude, he would have heard this vocals and be like he would have been like me, like terrified out of his mind.
Yeah. I love that. I would have loved to be in a fly on the wall during that process, because like I'd say they had right crack, because I'd say she went in, she's done a few times. She might have belted it out like a witch straight away, but like coming in, I'm sure she was probably a bit hesitant. And then after a while, they were like, just go for it. And then she just ripped into this full witch mode. Like, it's just, it's one of the most unique kind of sounding vocals. And I tell you, I would love her to sing on one of my songs. I'd love it, like. But yeah, just if I ever was able to sit down and take her vocals from the track and put it on the orchestra one, just myself at home, just to hear it together, I'd say it would be sweet. But I'd say they got her to run a lap around the studio and then straight in at the mic and just being like, you know, full on Halloween mode. Like, but dude, I can't listen to that song enough, and the live performance as well. It's just, I'd say the people came from all over the world, like literally every country, and that place was jammered. And the full orchestra they had on the stage, they had the three boys cymbals for the runic symbols. Then they had the big backdrops with I don't know what we'd even explain. It was like a mesh, and it had like different colors if they were playing tracks from different albums. Then you had the choir on one side and the orchestra on the other side, and just Agneta foot on the monitor, blast screaming into the microphone, and it just looked intense. She was like pointing out at everybody she was singing, and like I could imagine the young child you sitting in the audience like shaking. Oh shit, she's there! The witches, she's real.
Yeah, like all I'm thinking is like right before she goes into the studio, she just like takes a lot of cocaine.
That's what all the white is on her face.
yeah, literally. It's not magic, it's cocaine. But you know, going back to the mask from the album cover, you spoke about in the music video. It's actually interesting because I read here that apparently after the album release, the band announced all future pressings would feature a different album cover.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that. I haven't seen any other version. Oh,
no.
What is it?
I think it's literally this. It's the exact same image. Well, not exact same, but there's quite a bit different. But I think instead of it being like a more of a man face, it's just a skull. So they have like the helmet type thing and everything around it, but it's just like a skull. I think underneath it, it's just a little different. I heard that as well, but I'm not entirely sure why they changed it. It was clashing with another band's artwork or something, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I heard something about Guns N' Roses. I'm not entirely sure. There's actually not a huge amount of info on it, but yeah, it's unusual for a band, isn't it, to completely change the pressing after they've released it, right? Yeah. But it just goes to show there's no nonsense with them boys. You know, you need to do it. Like, which brings me to the lineup changes over the years. Like, there is no nonsense. Sure, what have they had? They've had like 19 members in total or something like that over the years. Like, and what was it? 13 have been fired out or stuff like that. So like the boys like to get their work done. But like I said earlier, when they brought Dari in, I was so happy. Yeah. Like that, watching that guy play drums, you just have the biggest smile on your face. It's just mind blowing. Hopefully one day I'll be lucky enough to have a jam with him.
Yeah. Sorry,
I would love that. Yeah, dude. Hopefully, if he watches this now and he knows how much we love him, maybe he'll come on and have a chat with us. Like,
yeah,
that would be cool.
I was gonna say, so yeah, speaking about band changes and lineups, so your personal opinion, does it affect would you be the type of person to be affected if a band changes their lead singer?
Yes.
Like, are you because to me, for example, the band that I always go to in my head is what are they called? The Misfits.
Oh yeah,
the punk band. Because I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they had like 3 or 4 albums with the original singer, and then the current lineup till this day is a different singer. So there's been 2 lead singers and 2 divided fans. Some people say the latest singer is better. Some people say the current one. But I've always been with the original singer. I can't hear the other albums. Like, to me, it sounds too different, and like I need the original.
Yeah, it's a weird one, right? Because obviously AC/DC is another big one, and when I suppose if you have if you're lucky enough to get 2 world-class singers in your band, then it's not so bad. But it's when they hire another guy and he's just not up to par. He's just like they love him, or her, and they get on really well. But they can't. They've asked him now, and he's done the job, and he's all for it. But he's not doing the same sort of job. As I said, who was it? The guy from it was it. Never mind. They'll come to me after. But yeah, it's a weird one. Lineup changes for me is a huge thing, you know, because and I'm sure these guys, they've been together. The three boys have been together for a long time, and they just have this particular vision that they want for the band, and that's cool. Like often, dynamics plays a big part, especially in a big project like this, big project. Personalities is almost more important than the musician element. You can pull class musicians left, right, and center, but unless you gel and you can work together and you have the same kind of work ethic, really. And it's great when, you know, you're in a band, because with me and the Berserkers, it's like a family vibe, you know. We're that's first and foremost, you know. But yeah, I'd say it's mad being involved in any way with this. Like 13 ex-members, like that's phenomenal. That's a big lot of people. But then again, it just goes to show, like, I think they just keep getting better and better and better every album. Like even their new album, that's pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
We'll get to that at some stage. But unrevealing or revealing, that's a phenomenal track too. Unveiling, that's the word.
I was gonna say before we get to the to some of the other tracks, I just want to say a band that I think did a fantastic job when it came to lead singer changes was Archenemy.
Oh yeah,
they did pretty good.
They did good. I mean, I was always a big fan of Angela dude, for me, she was the one that broke the mold. She really brought the female heavy vocalist into the forefront, like, yeah, no, they did pretty good, like, that they could find somebody with the same skill set. Like, it was fair play. And she's going out with a guy from the Misfits, actually, isn't she?
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah, the big guitarist dude.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So that's a fun fact.
Oh, there you go. So what is your opinion on how they close the album, ending and continuations? So
yes.
I mean, obviously the official ending would be that song, not the orchestral edition. So the 10th song. But yeah, so I want to know, do you think the final track closes the album up the way it should? Do you think it all goes perfectly?
I think it was a perfect finishing track, especially because they have a guest vocalist. His name is Garm, and he has this really cool, clean, but it's clean, but it's not soft clean. You know, there's a bit of bite in it, and to have a guest vocalist at the end on the very last track, I think it was a really cool. Normally, you throw that way up earlier in the lineup, but they did really good on that one. But you know, I love how they did add the bonus tracks afterwards. You know, but for me, this song having the title track, the title of the album in it, Abrahadabra, it's just like, oh, man, it's so epic, right?
Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. You know, it's appropriately named as well, endings and continuations.
Yeah.
So it's like it's the end of the album, but a continuation of the band.
That's nice. I didn't even think of that. That's a really nice way to think of it. It's also saying it's the end of the album, but it's not the end of the album because there's two more bonus tracks.
Yeah, and actually, the cool thing is, like, if you research the album, there's actually after that, there's actually the mail order edition, which has a cover song, "Dead Men Don't Rape," a cover of "Perfect Strangers" by Deep Purple. Ooh. Yeah, there's a few different. Yeah, there's tons of different Hot Topic edition, iTunes edition, Japanese limited edition.
Wow.
So there's 20 bonus tracks all up or something. It's crazy.
Wow. Jeez, man, that's my day sorted. I'll be sitting there listening to that, drinking me coffee. But dude, like the Garm guest vocalist, the you know the bit where he's like willing, evolving, achieving. It's just like it's just so epic. I absolutely love it. And that's the thing. Like, how can you have two tracks on the album with just breathtaking guest vocalists? Like, it's just like it's not fair, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, dude, they should have called this the Abrahadabra or something, like, you know. They did really good, but you know that guitar. There's a guitar at the end of that. There's like these really cool bends right at the end of that track with this massive layered vocals, and they're still doing the Abrahadabra, and like the drums stop, and it's just magic. I don't know what it is. If I could just get that last snippet of that with the chorus and that wow kind of bendy guitar at the end.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what a beautiful way to just subtly just slow down and end such an epic, magnificent album. Like, you know, like I just I don't know how they thought of all of these little intricate little bits, but my God.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Sorry, that's what I'm trying to say is that, you know, you can tell as magnificent and as larger than life as this album is, you can tell it's not overly saturated. Some bands will go out there, they'll spend millions of dollars on production value, on orchestras, on all this shit, and then it comes out sounding painful to listen to because it's all cluttered. It's too loud, it's too messy, it's not. But yet, as beautiful as this album is, they only chose a handful of guest vocalists. They only chose certain songs to really express the orchestral value. Dimmu Borgir, the intro track, the final track, and it's like there's certain tracks where you can hear it come out the most, but for the most part, they pick and choose where to put the most important things. They don't oversaturate the album, and I think that's a key here.
Yeah. 100%, man. I mean, you do. I don't want to pick any bands out in particular, just in case you ruffle some feathers. But there is a lot of bands that would. That's the thing. The fact that they actually have the first track of the album, and the last two as bonus tracks of just the orchestra, it kind of shows that they stand alone, and that it's not just a couple of synths, strings added on top and just adding layers, which is really cool, and I like that, and I do that myself. But they went the whole hog. Like, they really did put every inch of effort, like from the costume design side of it, the album cover, even redoing the album cover, the lyrics. There's so much in them lyrics. They're just special. Like, Sagrath, the vocalist, his vocals on this album are some of his best work as well. Like, you know, a death metal vocalist never really gets a huge amount of props, or black metal artist never gets the props, because there's so much going on with the guitars and the drums. But he really does pull it out, and he's great at picking the right points for him to throw his. It's very punchy. You know, when he comes in on a lyric, that's why it sits so nicely in on the music. You know, he really does put a lot of effort into where he's singing on the songs, and that's why I'm sure he wrote the what you call it, the guest vocal parts. He had it in his head. He goes, that guy's voice, Garm's gonna be perfect. Agna is gonna be amazing on hers. So yeah, no, it's just incredible how much thought went into this. Like, I can't even fathom. You know, like, even just recording a normal album with just 4 members, guitar, bass, drums, vocals, it's a lot of work. And being their 9th studio album, they didn't need to do this. Like, it was just like, you know, dude. And Nuclear Blast as well, isn't it, with them?
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, Nuclear Blast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, dude. What more can you say? Like, you just think about everybody and everything that's involved in this album. Like, it's just everybody needs to go and listen to it. It's I think it would appeal to everybody of all genres, preference types, heads. Like, you know, if you're into rock, if you're into metal, if you're into classical music, just do it, man. Get on it. And the entire way through the song, I don't know if I mentioned him, but Dare, the drummer, his drumming the whole way through this album is just mind blowing. And to have an orchestra sitting on top of his drumming, you know, it's just like the drums come to the forefront. It's mixed just right the way it should be with him. His feet are absolute fire. It's just like, it's phenomenal. Like, I just love watching his feet, man. They're just, and he has like, he's a ton of endorsements and stuff like that, but his cymbals, he has like, I think about 10, 15 cymbals, 3 massive toms. Like, it's a huge kit, like 2 massive floor toms, 2 kicks. You know, it's not like one kick with these 2 separate bass drums, like, you know. And dude, I could talk about him all day, but he is a gifted musician. To be in that band along with all of them, you know, it's unreal. But there's some really proper riffs as well. You know, like, that's usually what we talk about normally, is the riffs. We haven't even gotten a chance to get to the riffs.
Well, look, all I can say after what you said is, you either better after this podcast is finished, suck up Terrence's ass and tell him how good he is, because because you might have to watch your back at the next rehearsal. You might
get stick in the back of the head.
Yeah, a drumstick.
Yeah, I know. Terrence knows that I have massive love and respect for that man too. But what you call it? I kind of put my foot in my mouth a lot of times in the podcast. But sure, that's just me in life anyway, in general, man. But sure, listen, do you know what else? We don't even have time to really get into the riffs and stuff, but there's bells and everything, man. Like, you know, the old saying, bells and whistles. There's bells and whistles all over this album as well, man. And there's nothing more epic and metal than a big bell, you know, in a track, right? Ritualist. Isn't that in Ritualist? Yeah. What a song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a great hook as well in that, isn't it? Ritualist.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Happy day. Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, I think it's time to play our favorite game, Devil's Advocate. I'll try to do a bell.
Yeah.
I tried.
Good effort.
So, obviously, I think this album is harder than the last podcast to do, because so to me, just because we have to choose one, I'm going to have to go with the Demiurge Molecule. It's not a bad song. I just think the grooviness is just weirdly out. And if I didn't have to choose one, I wouldn't. But because we do, that's my choice.
Right, dude. I tell you what, 100% I agree with you on that one. That was the one I chose myself. And listen, this is a world-class song, and it's worthy of any band. And I probably will never write a song as good as this in my life, as much as I will try. But on an album like this, you know, there is no bad song. But as one that you would go back to less, you know, you're talking about Gateways and Dimmu Borgir, and you know, those are the ones you want to keep going back to, Born Treacherous and stuff. This is just a really good song, a really, really good song in the middle of a lot of really, 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 really good songs, you know. But I was gonna really cop out on this one. I was gonna say the orchestra version of this, and I was gonna say, because Dari's not playing drums on it. That's why it's the worst song.
Wow.
But yeah, I know. So yeah, I totally agree. So what's your favorite one then, bro?
My favorite one? Have to be. Actually, to be honest, it has to be a perfect tie between the intro track, just because of how grand it is, and Dimmu Borgir.
Nice.
What about you?
Nice, bro. Yeah, well, definitely I had a struggle with two as well. It was, well, three really. Dimmu Borgir was one of my favorites for a long time, but Gateways, I think just the performance on Gateways and the controversy that was surrounded, like a lot of people gave them stick for having her singing on it, saying her voice didn't work on it. And I'm like, yes, it absolutely does. It makes the album. Like it's the most standout piece, like I say, guest vocalist of all time. Um, so yeah, but Dimmu Borgir as a song, if she was to have sang on Dimmu Borgir, I think that might have pegged it for me. Because musically, I think Dimmu Borgir is, almost more interesting. There's a lot of really cool guitar riffs in there, and just more. I don't know. There's just more from a rock metal musician type kind of look at it. But yeah, to make a long story short, I'm gonna say Gateways because the guest vocals.
Nice.
Yeah, right.
Cool. So before we finish this up, let's just do a few things. What do you want to? Is there anything you want to like plug or anything you've got going on for the band?
Yeah, there's a really good podcast there called SAGAS that you should all listen. Yeah, man, you should check it out. But no, in all seriousness, we are. Yeah, what are we doing at the moment with the band this week? Geez, we're just online chatting about our music collection and stuff. So if you want to jump on the band page and check out what kind of guitars and stuff we have, that would be swell. Having a chat to us about that. I have to get back to work on this album. I went away for the weekend, so I have work to catch up on. So I'll be working on a track today. Let me see what's on my book here. A track called, oh, you like this one. It's called Mead Song.
Oh.
Yeah. It's called Let's Drink Mead, but it's about drinking mead. It's a real typical fun Viking type song.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's a couple of other cool things, announcements and stuff. But oh, look, I've gone red. Look, Jesus,
Yeah,
well.
about time. I was waiting for it.
Happy. It's because I spoke about mead. Happy days. Yeah. So that's the plan for the week. Anyway, I'm gonna go back. What about yourself?
All right. Well, first things first. If you guys want to get the invite details to Ren's funeral after Terrence kills him for being such a fanboy, then let me know. I'll send you the details. So I'm still taking my month off reviews. I've got annual leave, which just started today, so I'll be off. But if you guys want to go to my Facebook and send me requests once I'm off my holiday, then I'll get back to them ASAP. And if you guys want to do interviews, I can still post them on my YouTube. So that's always open. Other than that, yeah, we'll do the podcast hopefully it's Thursday here still. So I can still post this. Yeah, so every Thursday we'll do Sagas. And if you want to announce the about the next episode.
Yeah. Oh, well, the next one is this one is definitely inspired and dedicated to the boss man himself, Sean Whitlow, OG Big Sean from United Music Mafia, absolute legend of a man. But he has spoken out about his love of Megadeth, a few other bands, Lamb of God, and Megadeth in particular. He was talking about how he loves what's the name of the album? Peace. I forget the name of the album. Rest in Peace. Sorry, yeah, that's it. I'm too excited talking about Sean. I forgot the name of the album. Rest in Peace.
Rust in Peace.
Oh, Rust in Peace. Right. I'm gonna do my homework this week. We'll know what we're talking about next week. But Rust in Peace. Sorry, Sean. Yes, we're gonna dedicate this one, and it's an album that he really likes. So we're gonna give him a shout out and chat about one of his favorite albums.
Nice. Yeah. I can't wait. I grew up on this album, so for me, it's just a bunch of revisiting. So
yeah.
Nice.
Happy days, man. Yeah.
Well, we did this good episode, and yeah, so next Thursday, tune in, and it should be uploaded. I'll upload it within the hour, and yeah, hopefully it goes all good. Well, another good episode. Hope you enjoy your day.
Have a great day, everyone. All the best.
All right. Welcome. Sagas.
Sagas.